All right, here we are for another Tim Talk, folks. Really glad to have you here. It's always an honor that you would even be interested in what we have to say here at Headwaters, but I really appreciate it. I hope that it helps you. Um, this one we're entitling Embrace Your Shadow Side. Think about that for a minute. Embrace your shadow side. I can remember years ago um, getting a learning about this being that lives within all human beings that we call our shadow side. Now, it's the shadow side is I look at it as like a living being that lives within me, just like I have my ego and I have my artistic, creative side that lives within me, and so forth. When I was younger, I used to think, okay, well, I'm just going to get rid of the shadow side. So it doesn't cause me any trouble, so I don't do bad things. I don't hurt people. I don't become cruel or nasty or anything like that. Um, and I found this teaching, and they called it after the Cherokee Nation, and it was called the Forked Tree Teaching, and it's very simple. And it says you've got a forked stick, or a forked tree, a living tree. Take it as a living tree, and one is the shadow side, and one is your lighter, more average, normal side. You want to get rid of the shadow side, you just break it off or cut it off. The tree becomes unbalanced and it splits down the middle, and the whole thing dies. That was the teaching, and what came out of that teaching was we need to build a relationship with our shadow side. We need to embrace it as a living being, a part of us, and give it a life to some degree. Now, that's going to be different for every person, but just think about the concept of that for a minute, that idea, okay? Now, I'm not talking about, there's people that are truly evil, that have shadow sides that really encompass all their being. I'm not talking about that. That's other psychological depths to delve into around stuff that serious. I'm talking about your average mainstream human being who goes through the ups and downs of life, as you and I both know and go through. And that when our shadow side comes up, it's not necessarily our friend. So to be aware of it and to work with it is really keeping your power and having control of your life, okay? So I look at my shadow side. Some of the ways it might affect me is I'm lazy. Some of the ways it might affect me is I have thoughts in my head that aren't nice about other people or types of people or things like that. Certainly in this last 4 years with Donald Trump and the craziness that's gone on, my shadow side's kind of run rampant with judgments about people who do bad things that I don't like and what I might do to them. It all stays in my head, but still, I also learned something years ago that this saying, energy follows thought. Energy follows thought. So if I'm thinking bad things all the time, it's going to manifest some way. And if I just hold it in, it might make me sick or might make me feel bad or make me feel out of sorts. If I let it out, it might hurt someone else. So there's in building the relationship up with it, being willing to work with it, being willing to see your shadow side as it comes up, observe it. We call this self-observation. Observe it with no strong judgments. Just observe it. Then we have the ability to effectively change it or move it into an area that's okay. And when our shadow side does come up and make a mess of things, which we all know it does and will, then we clean that mess up. We apologize. We make it right. We do what it takes to clean it up. And most important, we learn the lesson and move on. We don't keep making the same mistake again. Now, how does all this go back to nature and earth living? Well, The shadow side doesn't leave just when you're in the city. You can go into nature and make all kinds of shadowy judgments about, say, other animals that you may, I, and then not do well by them or not do right by them, or shadowy judgments about plants, like poison oak or rose bushes with stickers, or shadowy judgments about water, and and again, in our human relations, often when we're in nature, our heart opens. We don't want that shadow side to close that down. We want to be able to feel ourselves open up widely and let the earth in, because there's so much waiting for us when that happens. So the basic bottom line teaching here is we have a shadow side. It needs to be honored by being acknowledged, but it can be managed and it can be controlled. And eventually it can really be mastered. We can master it so that it doesn't create problems. And I think when we finally learn to master our shadow side, that's when the idea of ascension, we become higher, more developed spiritually people. That's where we go, when we're not constantly having to beat it down. I'm not there yet, folks. I go out in the world sometimes and I see so many bad things and I just want to go crazy. But I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. And we all can be that, okay? And nature is that great equalizer. It's that thing that when we go out in nature and we experience our day in and day out life there, that's an easy way to see the shadow side come up and to put it in its place, work with it, manage it. All right? So make friends with your shadow side, get to know it, and live a good life. All the best. Oh.